Imagine waking up one morning and realizing you've spent years trying to learn something, only to still not be good at it. Maybe it's coding, a new language, or that business idea that's been collecting dust in the back of your mind. You started off excited, full of energy, convinced that this time was different. But then life happened, distractions crept in, motivation faded, and before you knew it, your 1-month learning challenge turned into a distant memory. What if I told you there's a way to learn almost anything? Faster, easier, and with way less frustration. Sounds good, right? Here's the thing. Most people don't fail because they're not smart enough. They fail because they're going about it the wrong way. The good news? By the end of this video, you'll have a simple, battle-tested blueprint to finally get good at anything you set your mind to. No more wasted time, no more feeling stuck. Let's break it down. We live in an age of limitless knowledge. You can literally learn quantum physics on YouTube for free. You have access to millions of books, courses, and tutorials all at your fingertips. And yet, most people still struggle to learn. Why? Because the way we're taught to learn is completely broken. Our education system is built around memorization, standardized tests, and rigid curriculums that don't accommodate individual learning styles. It focuses on short-term retention rather than deep understanding. Think about it. If traditional education worked so well, why do people forget everything the second the exam is over? Why do so many students struggle with subjects they've spent years studying? The answer is simple: because they were never really learning in the first place. Most people confuse memorization with learning. They read a book, watch a video, or listen to a podcast and think, I get it. But when it comes time to apply that knowledge, they freeze. That's because real learning isn't about storing information. It's about being able to use it in real life. It's because most people use the wrong approach. They rely on passive learning, watching videos, reading textbooks, listening to lectures without ever engaging with the information. They assume that just because they see something, they understand it. But true learning happens when you actively engage, practice, and apply what you've learned. Imagine trying to learn how to swim just by watching a YouTube tutorial. You can replay the video 100 times. But until you get in the water, you won't actually know how to swim until you jump into the water. The same applies to learning anything, whether it's a language, a skill, or even building a business. And then there's the fear factor. We're afraid of failing, afraid of looking dumb in front of everybody, afraid of investing time into something only to realize we suck at it. And in a world that moves at light speed, we expect instant results. When progress isn't immediate, we get frustrated. We feel like we're just not cut out for it, so we quit before we've even given ourselves a real chance to improve. But here's the truth: the only way to fail at learning is to give up. Every expert, every master, every genius you admire, whether it's Elon Musk, Albert Einstein, or even LeBron James, they all started from zero. They weren't born with supernatural abilities. They simply refused to quit. But most people don't see that. They only see the highlight reel, the success, the talent, the achievement. They don't see the years of struggle, the thousands of hours spent refining their skills, the countless mistakes made along the way. And here's the worst part. Every time you quit learning something, it reinforces a dangerous habit, the habit of giving up. Your brain remembers failure. It stores it like a bad experience. So the next time you try to learn something new, that memory kicks in and tells you, why bother? You're just going to fail again. Over time, this creates a mindset that kills growth and potential. Over time, this kills your potential. It turns into a mindset of quitting before you even start. So how do you fix this? How do you break free from this cycle of frustration and actually learn something in a way that sticks? Let me introduce you to something called the Mastery Framework. This is the same strategy used by world-class athletes, top entrepreneurs, and memory champions. It's built on 3 pillars: immersion, application, and iteration. Pillar 1, immersion. You have to surround yourself with the knowledge, not just passively consume it. Live in it. Want to learn Spanish? Change your phone's language. Watch Spanish TV. Speak it, even if you sound ridiculous. Trust me, native speakers won't laugh at you. Unless you accidentally say, estoy embarazado, which doesn't mean I'm embarrassed. It means I'm pregnant. But jokes aside, immersion forces your brain to adapt. The more your environment aligns with what you're trying to learn, the faster you'll absorb it. Pillar 2, application. The biggest mistake? thinking you need to know everything before you start. No, learning happens by doing. You want to code? Start a project. You want to write? Publish something, even if it's bad. You want to play an instrument? Play a song. Even if it sounds terrible at first, perfectionism is the enemy of progress. Trust me. You don't wait to get good. You get good by doing. Pillar 3, iteration. Most people quit after the first failure, but failure is part of the process. The secret is analyzing what went wrong, tweaking your approach, and going again. That's how real learning happens. Think of it like a video game. The first time you play a new level, you probably fail. But each time you try again, you get better. You learn from your mistakes. You adjust your strategy, and eventually you master it. The same applies to real life. Every mistake is data. Every failure is feedback. The only way to truly fail is to stop trying. But what if you could hack your brain to make this process even faster? Well, the good news is, you can. Your brain is like a muscle, and just like any muscle, it can be trained for efficiency. The secret: deliberate practice and spaced repetition. Deliberate practice isn't just repetition, it's focused repetition. It means identifying weaknesses, breaking them down into smaller skills, and drilling them with intensity. This is what separates the average from the exceptional. And then there's spaced repetition, scientifically proven to supercharge memory. Instead of cramming everything in one session, you review information over increasing intervals. This forces your brain to work harder to recall it, strengthening neural connections and ensuring long-term retention. But here's where it gets even better. The brain thrives on challenge. When you push yourself outside of your comfort zone, when you deliberately tackle difficult problems, you force your brain to grow. Neuroscientists call this desirable difficulty, and it's one of the most powerful learning hacks there is. So if you truly want to master anything, don't just rely on willpower. Use strategy, use science. Because when you combine immersion, application, iteration, and brain hacks like these, you don't just learn, you transform. And once you realize that, the world is yours to master. Your brain is a pattern detection machine. It craves efficiency, and there's a way to use that to your advantage. Step 1. The power of chunking. Your brain loves patterns. It thrives on structure. Instead of memorizing individual pieces of information, the key is to group them into meaningful chunks. This is how expert chess players recall hundreds of moves, and how polyglots master multiple languages. For example, when you try to remember a phone number, you don't memorize 10 random digits. You break it into 3 chunks: 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6-7, 8, 9, 0. That's chunking in action. The same principle applies to anything you learn, whether it's a new language, a musical instrument, or even coding. If you can find patterns, you can dramatically speed up your learning process. Want to learn faster? Stop seeing everything as isolated facts. Start finding connections. Link new information to what you already know, and your brain will retain it much more effectively. Step 2. Spaced repetition. Your brain is wired to forget. Without reinforcement, new information vanishes quickly. And that's why cramming before an exam doesn't work long-term. But what if you could time your review sessions to counteract this? Enter spaced repetition, a scientifically proven technique where you revisit information at strategically spaced intervals. Instead of reviewing something once and forgetting it, you come back to it just before your brain is about to forget. This simple adjustment transforms short-term memory into long-term knowledge. Tools like Anki and Quizlet use algorithms to schedule your reviews for maximum retention. But even without apps, you can do this manually. Review today, then again in a few days, then a week later, and so on. This method ensures the knowledge sticks permanently. Step 3. Teach what you learn. Ever notice how teachers seem to know everything? It's because teaching forces you to organize and clarify knowledge in your mind. The act of explaining something makes gaps in your understanding obvious, forcing you to fill them in. This is the Feynman technique, named after Nobel Prize-winning physicist Richard Feynman. His philosophy: if you can't explain something in simple terms, you don't really understand it. Try breaking a concept down as if you were teaching it to a 5-year-old. If you struggle, you've identified what you need to work on. So the next time you learn something new, teach it. Explain it to a friend, write a blog post, or even record yourself talking about it. The more you articulate your knowledge, the deeper it will embed in your mind. By using chunking, spaced repetition, and teaching, you can dramatically improve how fast and effectively you learn. But we're not done yet, because there's still one final piece to mastering any skill. So now you have a choice. You can keep learning the old way, slowly, painfully, and with the memory of a goldfish. Or you can finally start learning the right way. Now here's the catch. This isn't magic. There's no Hogwarts spell for instant mastery. Trust me, I checked. None of this works unless you actually apply it. So here's your challenge. Pick literally anything you've always wanted to learn. Use the immersion, application, and iteration method for 30 days. And see what happens. Maybe you'll crush it. Maybe you'll fail in spectacular fashion. Either way, you'll have a great story to tell. And hey, don't ghost me, I want to know how it goes. Drop your results in the comments. So, what are you waiting for? The Knowledge Fairy isn't going to do it for you. Get to work.